Okay, so you have to level up to these zoonotic viruses. Yeah, we came from the hominids or the primates, and that's why the whole Rh factor with our blood types. I mean, the blood types A, B, and O are just the antigen programming, the viruses that were programmed to edify us and bring us to a certain level. And then the Rh factor is just how much of the antibodies, as far as the rhesus monkey gene, do we have within our blood, our immune system. And so I'm just looking at, the human population and the doubling and tripling and all of that that we see from when the Homo sapiens first came around. Okay, hold on a second. Let me see something real quick. When the Homo sapiens first came around, and then how long were they? I mean, like, what was it? So man did come from primate prototype, and there were different primates that evolved into the caveman and into the different hominids. How long did it actually take? Well, procreation doesn't take that long when you see how long it took to get to 7.9 billion people. 200,000 years, but even then I think it's probably even less. But how do you quantify, how do you even look at 200,000 years? That's just like, it was only 5,000 years ago that we had the 6 cradles of civilization, or 6,000. So 200,000 is like, okay, I mean, you have all the different hominids and species, and how long did you really think that they were proliferating? Well, maybe a long time, I guess. Maybe 200,000 years is something that is viable. It's hard to say. And I guess since I don't have any other proof except for what we are working with as far as science, then I will use that. But when you look at well, yeah, I guess that could be, well, I don't know. 200,000 years just seems like such a long time. Because when you look at how many viruses, like how much we've increased in the population, okay, I mean, back in the year 18, I mean, there's only like, what, 1 million primates running around, 1 million homo sapiens, I guess, running around this earth prior to the edification. And so it's like, how does 1 million then turn into like 7.9 billion in 200,000 years? Well, yeah, it is the viruses, and this is again where we're speculating around the hominids as far as how far back and how long it took in between each evolutionary stage. But I guess it doesn't really matter. But you have to know that the viruses, the alchemy and the viruses, and whoever was edifying these primates that turned us into who we are today, we're doing so many experiments. And then you can say, yeah, the Garden of Eden, and somebody was playing and splicing and dicing and whatever in a lab somewhere, who knows? And again, we have been told that there were advanced civilizations that happened before us, so that isn't out of the question. But when you think about, like if we take everything back to now modernity, back down to our modern age, there were 1 billion people in 1804. Now we know the Middle Ages, between the 1400s all the way to the 1800s, there was so much of the innovation, the development of literature and art and math and sciences and just, poetry and all that stuff. And so, and there were also the alchemy that happened in the Middle Ages. And so, yeah, whenever you have alchemy, you're turning little viral variants and you're procreating them together, and there are different pandemics that will cause fertility. And yeah, you'll have fertility in your body, such as mucus, little mucus viral babies that will then turn into either a cancer if you're not procreating, or turn into a teratoma if you're not getting with a man, woman, or binary, non-binary with a womb and whatever. And so there was people that were always having children, and so that's why it was 1 billion in 1804 versus 1 million way back 200,000 years ago when mankind, like when the Homo sapiens first was around. So then you look at the 1918 pandemic. A year later after that, and that was the flu, the influenza, the Spanish flu. A year later after that, biotechnology was coined using the flu virus. That was when Carl, whatever his name is, he was the one that coined the term biotechnology. They figured out how to use the viruses to enhance mankind. And that's where all the experiments as of the last couple hundred years were used to figure out how they were going to use these viruses by splicing and dicing. And yeah, zoonotic viruses too. That's what I'm saying. The COVID-19 came from a bat. Okay, it came from a bat. Absolutely. I would not put it past it as far as a bat, as far as any other animal viruses that we are coming in contact with. It is enhancing us. Sometimes it's very aggressive and people are like, oh my God, and they're taking their different antivirals and antibiotics and all that stuff. But then that also creates then the merging of the bat and the human into then a viral variant that will then enhance the human. Though you're not going to grow bat wings because that's not your genotype. You're not a bat. But whatever proteins that a human can take on will enhance the human, and anything else that is not to the actual viral operating system will be then, sneezed out, pooped out, urinated out, whatever. Okay, so you have the 1918 pandemic, then the 1919 biotechnology. And then there's 2 billion in 1927. So it took 123 years to double the population. Well, that's right after the flu pandemic. Yeah, a lot of people died, but then people were having children left and right. So even though a lot of people died, there was a lot of people that are having children, and they weren't trying to do birth control when you think about it. Not when you're doubling the population in 123 years. But then you have 3 billion from 1960 to 1927. So 33 years, you add 1 billion. So now you've just cut the time into like a third. Now you're doubling the population or adding 1 billion in like 33 years. Well, between 1927 and 1960, you have the World War I, World War II, you had the baby boomers, okay? And so then you're like, oh crap, yeah. When you have war causes then the extinction level events that causes fertility, and everyone was having babies and there were 2.5 kids and all that stuff. And then from 1960 to 1974, you have then another billion, 14 years to add another billion. That's less than 33 years. Now that's where all the drugs, the LSD, oh my gosh. And then you have biotech doing their experiments and adding things. And then you have the A, B, and O, and the type A and the type B. And then you're getting the cerebral types. And this is where the advancements come from. It's from all the viruses and the extinction events like war and drugs and pandemics. And oh, Lordy, here we go. And then 5 billion population in 1987. And so 13 years between 1974 and 1987, 13 years to add 1 billion. And then from, 6 billion in 1999, so 12 years to add 1 billion from 87 to 99. And then it's 12 years to add from, 1999 to 2011. And so now we're in a great reset. Yes, we have so many viruses, but now there's viruses that are going to attack your immune system, like the HIV. HIV eats your immunity. So while it is that they have given you all this different enhancements, right? As far as zoonotic viruses, the Marburg, Ebola, the COVID, and all the different variants, and that's zoonotic, and that will be an enhancement to a human. But then you have the HIV circulating in the population, and that eats people's immunity, and that will then tear down someone's immune system, even though they're trying. Well, most people out there are not trying to upgrade, and they're taking their heavy therapies and their antivirals what's going to happen is going to edify the strong, it's going to strengthen the strong, and it's going to destroy the weak. And so that's why you cannot resist these viruses, because even though there is an HIV laced in it somewhere, you'll catch it by just catching it from somebody, whether it's through actual physical contact or you catch it in the air. But you're also going to be catching, COVID-19, and you're not going to know which one it is when you breathe it in and when you cough it out. You won't know which antibody is doing what to you, and you can't determine which one it is. So then you have to assimilate regardless, and your body's going to have to go through the symptomatic upgrades, and it's going to be aggressive. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not going to be aggressive. It will be. But you have to assimilate. You cannot assume that the viruses that you're exposed to with all the symptoms are only HIV, or they're going to hurt you or do anything bad to you, because there's also innovation that's laced in with all these viruses. And that's the zoonotic viruses, the COVID-19, BA1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10. And then also anything else that is thereafter. And so you got to know that even though they have increased the population through all the different viral variants and biotech and all their different therapies and the antivirals and the holistic and the allopathic world, we're steadily increasing the population, causing so much fertility, why we kept increasing, okay? Just like China. Now they're like, okay, we've done our experiments. We know how to develop fertility. We know how to target entities through chemotherapy, through radiation, through specific immunotherapies. And so we can kind of figure out how to target things without going to the holistic world where it's just a full complete mutation of that variant and then you get a whole new species or some kind of offshoot. And so then you have those two working together. You have the holistic creating the monster, so to speak, not literally, but creating the monsters. And then you have the allopathic then targeting and doing their own laser, surgery of carving out what they want out of that specific cookie cutter, I guess. That's the only way I can kind of explain it. And so, but you don't have to take part in any of those. You as a human on the Jilly Juice will be inhaling everybody's innovation. And then your coughing will cough out what you don't need, and your pooping and your sphincter stuff and your sweating and your feeling the symptoms is another way to release the excess, and you will take on the components that are going to enhance your DNA, enhance everything, and completely edify you and bring you up to a major intellectual capacity that you probably even were aware of that you could do. And so, I mean, now I kind of get it. We have gone through some major experiments, like major. America was the last great experiment. And it was, biotechnologically done, yes. It was intellectual, it was all innovation, and Europe kind of exhausted its petri dish, and America, because really 1776 happened in the Middle Ages, okay? So this was fertile land, like literally fertile land. I mean, we had the indigenous population that was here, but they needed to be edified. We needed to use the land for our own experiments and for advancing humanity from the old world, Christopher Columbus world, and then now, of course, he then coined the whole new world. It's a whole new world, right? Pocahontas, Christopher Columbus, whatever. And so that's the world you live in. That's the new world order. Is they had to go through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of just of creating prototypes and throwing them away, creating prototypes and throwing them away until they got the type of prototype they wanted, because they've done their experiments. We have extremely smart people in our society and extremely ignorant people in our society, and all the rainbows in between. And so, now you have a chance to level up and deal with the evolution that's going on, and without taking away substance, without destroying yourself. And you don't even have to take part in the innovative therapies, because again, your friends that are taking part in the therapies, they are being used as a tool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to insult them, but anyone that takes a therapy is being used as a tool, because when East meets West, when hot meets cold, when North meets South, you're going to have explosions called conception. And they will be the ones to edify you. Even if they're not edified themselves and they're resisting, they're going to be spitting out viral babies. And then you will catch it, convert it, and then spit out another viral baby to them, and then potentially edify them. But they might resist it, and they don't get edified, and they will then decline with the people around them. And so we are in a great, amazing time at this point, but you have to understand what's going on. And so, you don't have to do the therapies in order to be edified, because even if you do a therapy, it's supposed to bring up the innovation, and that's why you feel symptoms if you have enough in you to create that conception. That's why some people don't get reactions from the therapies, because they already are at a negative. So a negative to a negative is a positive, but you're not getting the conception. You're cured. And so the therapy is not going to really make a difference to you. That's why people are like, well, I don't understand what the issue is. I don't have any symptoms. But when someone is a heavy positive and they're getting a heavy negative, and there is conception called fertility, called mucus, they've just been edified. Now you have to feed that energy correctly with food, water, and all that stuff. And then, yes, you will be communicable, so someone else will take on that version of what you took on, and either it won't affect them or it will, and they will deal with the edification. And so then you see how the seeding of the new prototypes are happening with all the different viruses and the antiviruses. That is extraordinary. And they'll never tell you that because it's about thermodynamics. That's how conception is. That's what fertility is. That's what increased the population, was the whole playing with the viruses and the alchemy and the holistic and the allopathic working hand to hand together with all of their supplements and detoxes. But then people weren't surviving the fertility stages. They were dying from fertility. And so while, yes, on one hand, you can live from fertility and be amazing and edified and intellectual and productive and peaceful, you can also die from fertility and be on the decline and be, disruptive and invasive and then, pass away with the supernova. Okay, so now you have the choice, but no matter what, fertility is fertility. How you deal with it is going to be the difference between whether or not you live a long time or you shorten your lifespan. Okay? And that's why you must understand that you have to release the mucus through your nose. You bypass your first and second lines of defense, you will not have a chance because all that fertility inside is going to cause so many glitches in your memories. And people who have issues with remembering stuff because there's probably AIDS virus in them eating away at their memories, their immunity. And that's the Trojan horse that's in people's bodies at this point. That's a Trojan horse that's in the environment. They're advertising free HIV testing in my area. Okay? That ought to tell you something, that there is a Trojan horse within the population that will work against you literally because HIV eats your immunity yet again. And so no matter what, you don't know who has it or what has it. And so now you have to really level up. And that means that you don't resist any of these viruses. You blow your nose, you feed yourself, you do a few recalibrations with the J juice, release the demons, create enough space for new memories, allow your body to release what is going to attack it and take in the innovation, and then you will be sensitive to the environment, but it will be a welcome thing, so it will then keep increasing your strength. But I'm telling you, if you are cured on the J juice, you're not going to deal with this. You're not going to, because I know people who are, yes, they're eating everything. They say, oh, I'm eating everything, but they haven't said that they were off the J juice. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, I don't know. But just because you're eating everything and you're doing so much J juice doesn't mean that the food is actually going to work to your benefit if you're not allowed your body to develop mucus and replicate and take on the information and release the excess. Okay? So that's the other side of it. Those that are still doing J juice for symptoms or just doing it every single day and then they're eating everything under the sun, even if they're not hungry, you're like, well, I'm eating stuff, Jillian. But how do I know they're not doing J juice every day, curing themselves? Because they don't want to feel pain. They're afraid of the zoonotic viruses. Oh, well, I don't want to be a transhumanist. I don't want to be taking on the animal DNA. I'm sorry, but you live around animals. You live around cows, chickens, your dog, your cat. You're taking on their DNA. Are you turning into a cat? No. But when you find out that these viruses do come from animals, whether or not it was from a lab that was spliced and diced or it came out of nature and happened to jump to a human who happened to mutate it to such an extent that it caused then a pandemic, it doesn't matter. You still have to level up. Okay? And so this is how you're going to survive this if you're not afraid of any of these viruses. And again, the Trojan horse is the HIV. That's what's going to get people. That's what's going to work against them. That's what makes people afraid of viruses, because the HIV. So we'll see. All right. Good luck. Bye.